Hello everyone, I am Douglas E. Welch and welcome back to this episode of In the Garden for A Gardener's Notebook. For more information, you can always visit the website, douglasewelch.com. There you'll find links for A Gardener's Notebook as well as everything else I do, including our YouTube channel. Today we're out here on a lovely Sunday morning here in Southern California. It's bright and shiny today, but tomorrow they're expecting rain for the next 2 days, which frankly we can really use a lot. But it made me decide to come out and do a project, actually finish up a project that we started a few weeks ago, and that is our dried herb project. Here we have some peppermint, we have some of the lemon thyme, and we have some of the oregano from the front garden containers that I harvested a few weeks ago. We've hung it up. First of all, I had it hanging here in the porch, and then we had 1 day of rain, so I moved it inside to the garage, and I've left it there ever since. I think today we're ready for it to actually be bottled up, basically stripped down and bottled up. The herbs are appearing really, really dry, and that's kind of the way you have to do this. You have to just test it by, do the leaves easily break, or are they still kind of flexible? These I can crush this peppermint up into a very, very tiny chunks with no problem at all. So that tells you it's pretty dry. Now, I will say, if you ever do take your herbs and bottle them up before they're totally dry, you'll notice almost immediately you'll start to get condensation in the bottle. If that happens, just pop it open, put it back out, let it dry out further. That means there's still moisture in the herbs, and eventually they will mold in the bottles. And you don't want that to happen. You want to get all that wonderful herby goodness. So it's okay, just if you notice it, keep an eye on them the first day or so. If you notice that there's condensation in the bottle, get it back out, let it dry out a little bit more before you rebottle it. Today I've just saved up some spice bottles from the kitchen that we had. The first one I have is, I'm just going to take the peppermint here, and I just got a bowl to kind of contain everything. And with this, I should be able just to kind of crunch it up, and that's exactly what happened. Just by merely crunching up the stems here, oh, the wonderful smell of peppermint is just all over the place right now. And what we're going to do is just kind of continue to crunch it up. Now, if you see some brown leaves in there, you probably want to go ahead and pull those out. If you see any leaves that look damaged or otherwise don't look palatable, pull those out. But, as with most dried herbs, you're pretty good as far as just breaking the leaves off. In the case of the peppermint, I don't mind a few stems because we're probably going to use it to brew tea, so it's not like I'm going to be eating these leaves directly, so a few stems aren't going to hurt anything. With the oregano and with the thyme, though, we'll actually probably go ahead and be a little more careful to only get the leaves. We may toss it around a little bit and let the lighter leaves come to the top, so we really make sure we get those. I'm going to untie our little knot here that I had for hanging it up, and all I used was some simple twine I had in the garage just to make a little knot around the base of the stems here to hold everything in place. Drying herbs is one of the best ways of preserving things for those winter months when things aren't growing very well. Even if you have herbs on your windowsill during the winter, they don't tend to do very well. They can languish a bit there, and you maybe don't get as much herbage off them as you like. Where with dried herbs, once they get dried out fully and you do this little crunching here like I'm doing now, these will last for months at a time. They'll probably last much longer than it would take you to actually use the herbs to begin with. Now with the peppermint, we'll probably use a little bit more of these because when you make a peppermint tea, you do use quite a bit of the peppermint. In the past, I've actually used the lemon thyme here as well. I've combined it into a tea with the peppermint too. Lemon and mint are, of course, always great infusions. They're not actually teas. If you talk to the tea experts, they will correct you. They're not actually teas. They are infusions. But here in America, we tend to call everything made like that to be a tea. Well, there we go. So pretty much I've got all the leaves in here. And I see a few leaves that I'm going to pull out. I see actually a couple of seeds from the I think the elm tree that got in here. They were probably in the herbs when I hung them up, so we'll just kind of gently pull those out. They shouldn't do any damage at all though in there, as far as they're not poisonous or anything like that, which is nice. And we're just going to go ahead and crunch this up a little bit more in here, and this will just help it to fit in the bottle a little bit better. Now for the peppermint here, I've actually set aside a container that had some nuts in it, a nut mix in it. It's a nice big container, but it does seal airtight, and that's the important thing with all herbs. You want them to seal airtight. So I saved that one aside. I rinsed it all out, dried it out nicely. Again, you don't want any moisture involved in this, so I did dry things out quite well, so I didn't introduce any moisture in here, and that is pretty much it. Now, one of the tricks I use when I'm pouring dry things into containers is to actually make a little funnel using a piece of just a standard printer paper, actually copier paper. You can go through lots of weird folding techniques that you'll see on TV shows and stuff, but I find just folding it over like that to make a nice wide mouth funnel. You dump it in, and all the goodness then goes into the box, into the container, not all over your countertop. So there you go. I mean, that's the peppermint right there. That's how quickly it came about. Now what you can do is obviously you can start to get a flow going with these herbs as they grow up. Just make it a point to collect and dry, you know, over and over as you get enough of each herb, and start to store up a backlog in your kitchen. Some herbs are best used fresh, like basil. Other herbs like thyme and oregano, which I also have here, and peppermint in fact, although you can use fresh peppermint for tea too. They actually have a better flavor when it's drier, when it's dried out. The essential oils get concentrated into the leaves, and that really does intensify the flavor of those herbs. Now here what I'm going to do is, with the thyme, I'm going to be a little more careful. They have nice stems, and with everything dried, you can literally just run your finger along the stem much like you would with a fresh thyme, and you'll end up with just the thyme leaves in this bowl. So that's what I'm going to do now, is I'm just going to go through and kind of take stem by stem and just start pulling the leaves off into my bowl here. Now again, a few stems aren't going to hurt you in any way, shape, or form. These are small enough that even if you did use it in a cooking dish, you're probably not going to notice the woody stem, because it's probably going to cook down pretty well. But why not take a few moments to just nicely get the leaves off by themselves. And there's our thyme that we got from that small bunch. It wasn't a large bunch of thyme at all, but we got 4 or 5 teaspoons of thyme out of there. If you cook with thyme a lot, you know that's enough for definitely a couple pots of soup and some other stuff. So definitely worthwhile to take a few moments to gather it up, dry it, and save it off. Again, we'll just use our same little routine here with our little paper funnel and tap it down into our bottle here. Now this bottle actually came with a nice little shaker top originally, so might as well put that back on, and you have that so you can just shake out the amount you want into your soup pot or whatever. So there's our thyme. Our last one today is going to be our oregano, and this is one I hope to get as much as possible off of, because we tend to use a lot of oregano here in the garden. So we'll do the same thing. We'll basically strip the stems into our bowl, we'll crunch things up a little bit, we'll make sure we got everything off there, and then we'll bottle it up. Well, that's it for our oregano. I just kind of crunched up a little bit when I got done here. Now as for obviously our leftovers there, that goes all into the compost pile, like everything else, to go back into the garden at some later date. Hope you enjoyed this episode of A Gardener's Notebook in the Garden. I hope it's encouraged you to go out and kind of harvest some of your own herbs, dry them up, and save them for those dark winter months. I know even here in Southern California, when it gets cold and rainy, I like to have a little cup of tea in the evening, and the peppermint tea being non-caffeinated will certainly help with that. So really looking forward to that. Of course, when you have a group of dried herbs like this, you can go ahead and make your own combinations of herbs. You can make your own herb de Provence, your own Italian herb mix, whatever you care to do, just based on the herbs in your own garden. Again, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm Douglas E. Welch. Until next time, keep drying your herbs, keep harvesting, and keep digging.